Hi, my name's Eric Harding, and I will be preparing the symposium dish, cheese biscuits with aromatic bay leaves. This comes from Cato's book on agriculture, which was part of the cookbook that was posted on D2L. I'm pretty excited for this, however, I'm nervous. This recipe seems a little strange to me, but all in all, I'm excited to be cooking this, so let's get to it. Alright, so the first step is to preheat the oven to 375 degrees, so I'm going to do that as well as grease a baking sheet and set that aside. Alright, so instead of greasing this baking sheet, I actually decided I'm just going to hit it with some Pam because greasing it seems unnecessary when I already covered the pan in tin foil. So I'm just going to pop this off. I should do this over the sink actually. Perfect. Alright, so next the recipe calls for half a teaspoon of freshly milled pepper. I don't have a mill, but I do have these whole black peppercorns, so I'm just going to start crushing these up with this ice cream scooper off camera, and hopefully eventually it'll start to break up and it'll look like freshly milled pepper, but we'll see. I'm going to do that off camera, so. Okay, so surprisingly the ice cream scooper worked extremely well at breaking up this black pepper. It's a nice fine ground now. I'm actually really surprised that worked, but it's very aromatic now, so it will work great in this. Alright, so now my oven is preheated at 375 degrees. So I'm going to mix together my dry ingredients, which is 3/4 of a cup of flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of our freshly milled black pepper. I'm going to do this off camera so I can use both hands. Alright, so my dry ingredients are nice and incorporated, so now it's time to add the wet ingredients, which is a cup of ricotta cheese, which seemed like a lot to me, but I'm going to stick with that part of the recipe, and 1 egg. Then I might throw in a little bit of this Parmesan cheese beforehand, even though the recipe only says to put it on top, just so the Parmesan is inside. I went ahead and scooped them onto the baking sheet already, but the recipe called for a dozen biscuits, and the way I scooped them, I only got 8. But I think that's just because I wanted them to be a little bigger than a tablespoon. But either way, this looks and smells great already. I'm going to top these with Parmesan and the crushed bay leaves. Then I'm going to stick them in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes until they're golden brown, and then I'm going to take them out. Alright, I just pulled these out of the oven after about 21 minutes of cooking, and these look delicious, and they smell great. So I'm going to let these cool off, and then I'm going to plate them up, and then try one, and then feed the rest of my family, most likely. Alright, so I have these plated up, and I'm super excited for this. I was not expecting these to turn out good, but I think they're going to be pretty good. So, let's take one. Oh, wow. Look at that. Looks pretty good. I'll try it. That is pretty good. Not gonna lie. Big fan of that. Awesome. Okay, so wow, that was a surprising success. The biscuits turned out way better than I thought they were going to be. I was a little worried when there was more ricotta cheese than flour in the recipe, but everything turned out all right. So, a little bit of history on the dish. Cato says that the biscuits were made for dinner and for making friends. And while I didn't cook these for dinner, I did feed them to my parents and they really liked them. So, in that respect, I could see them being really great for making friends and serving their purpose. So, if I were to have to make these again, I would omit putting the Parmesan cheese inside of them because after a while the Parmesan cheese started to cool down on the inside and then they got a little harder than they were supposed to be, I think. So if I were to make these again, I'd actually follow the recipe word for word. But you live and you learn, so next time I make them, which I probably will be making them again, they were really good, I will omit the Parmesan cheese inside. Thank you.